building cabs, and it's something I've used for years for prototypes because it's quick and easy, and I can knock up a cab in sort of half a day at home, completely just from a 8x4 sheet chipboard. So it's a really quick and simple method, and I've adapted it, and it relies upon, we did one of the early designs, had a port that you could buy, and of course immediately they discontinued it. So now my ports are drain, that's actually literally a piece of drain pipe used to paint when I painted too close to it. So it's a really simple technique, it's reproducible, you can obviously put more than one port in and stick to that. And the advantage of drain pipe is you can get a hole saw which will do you a perfect hole, sort of friction fit, and you can put the port in really simply like that. So it's a bit small actually for the speaker because the speaker's ridiculous. If you're going to build cabs, you get the basic panels cut to size. You can buy the timber and get them cut to size at most B&Qs. They do a certain number of cuts for free and then they charge you 50p a cut. And it's well worth doing because trying to get everything square, I've got table saws and things at home, but you know it's quite tricky to do. And then all you're left with is making these holes. So that was cut with a hole saw. This one, I've got a router that has a sort of compass attachment on it, which makes a nice neat hole. But you can do it with a jigsaw. For years I've done it with a jigsaw. When I first built cabs, I was doing it with a hand jigsaw to do it. And it's perfectly possible. You can do these things. It takes a bit longer to do it by hand, but you can cut that. And then you've actually got a fair, it's not precision engineering. You know, if you get it within a millimetre either way, then you can do that. And if you make a hole, you can fill it. I'll talk about that later. This plywood is from Jewson's. It's sold as poplar ply, lightweight ply. Most ply nowadays, if you buy it cheaply, is the same stuff. It's made with eucalyptus in China. It's not poplar, but they, you know, obviously poplar is an English name that can be applied to anything that they want to do. So, and it's okay. It's got a few, I don't know whether you can see there, gaps in it. Yeah, so there are some hollow bits in there. It can splinter a bit, and there is a good side and a not so good side. Now you can see there's obviously a big piece fell out, and they cut this sort of leaf shape thing, which they all do. You see it in quite a lot of ply. That's quite a common shape to see. So if you see that, you know that's been patched as an extra veneer. But it's all fitted and then sanded down and so on, and you're only going to treat that side anyway. So it's a good idea to have a look, check that you've got the outside on the outside. But again, if you're going to paint it or cover it in cloth, it kind of doesn't really matter. And it's reasonably lightweight, which is good. So the whole method depends upon using, it's called a reinforced butt joint. You take a piece of square edge timber and you fit it in there and you screw it in place and it holds everything at right angle. You see, if I try and balance that on there, that's not going to balance. If I take this one with the button, it will go on there quite nicely, and when that's screwed down, that holds it at right angles, and that's the secret to getting a decent cab, really. So straight edges because you're getting a machine cut, use the buttons, and it has a couple of other effects. That will be more acoustically dead than that will be, and it dies down a bit, and because you've got a wider edge there, you've kind of got a cantilever effect. The panel that's fixed to it won't bend so much. So just putting these in all round stiffens up the cabinet. With a cab this size, you don't really need any more bracing. I mean, you can put bracing in, it's a good idea to put it across one wall to the other, because joining them together, you see when the speaker goes backwards, it pushes the walls out, and if you bolt them together, they're not going to move, they're going to push against each other and cancel. So that's it. So very simple technique. First of all, always mark up, I don't know whether you can see there, in pencil, the lines where you're going to fit, and use the timber that you're using to mark it up. Always keep bits of offcut, because it says 12mm, but it isn't, it never is. It's roughly 12mm. Depends how they've set the sanding machine and the things that it's fed through. It's not very accurate. So when you're doing the line, if you go around with the stuff that you're using, you know that it's typically used by carpenters, certainly since medieval times. There's records of people, they always use a bit of wood to stick, mark the length. They didn't use rulers. They just marked the length they wanted to cut and then marked everything to that and had their one piece that they went around cutting into. So you're kind of using a well-worn technique. So basic technique then is screwed and glued. Let's do this one first of all. I usually do the sides first. So the other thing is, when you do it, when you get to the end, you're going to want to fit a grill or something like that. So leave space for the grill. And you know, when I first did it, I'd do everything and build a nice box, and then think, oh, I've got to fix something on the front of that. And also, you want your speaker to be able to go backwards and forwards, and not hit anything. So I usually need 30 mils, which conveniently is the width of the ruler I do. So marking out is really important. So that's one I did earlier, obviously. It's, great. So, very simple. Glue is just ordinary white woodworking adhesive. Somebody recognised that's a Type-Bond bottle, but it's not Type-Bond in there. That is Yoo-hoo glue that I bought from Lidl's. So it will make a bond which is much stronger than the wood, so you're not bothered about anything fancy. So it goes on there. You can't see from there is that I've marked the line, I've glued it into the line, but I'm going to double check, and I can feel your fingers are incredibly sensitive. You know, you've got thousandth of an inch out, you can feel that gap there, and actually that's not straight, that's just wood. It's pushing the end out. So you need one of these and one of these to assemble it. I will use the electric one because there's no point in you watching me. And this is really good because you can make a reasonable cab that can sound as good as anything in that room there. In sort of a weekend, easily, probably you could do it in less time. And I don't know whether you can see there, as I've screwed it, it's pulled the glue out. So you know that it's sealed underneath, you know there's no air gaps there because it's squeezed that stuff out. I mean, there's a bit there where it hasn't come out, and I'm hoping when I've tied this one down, so there. This will still move around. That's perfect. That's perfect as well. Let's do those. But you've got a little bit of play it. The holes that I've drilled are 4mm, screws 3.5. So I've got a little bit of play when I tighten the screw down. And yeah, you can see it's all the way along that edge there. Any edge you're going to join to, make sure you wipe the glue out because it sets hard and it's a bugger to get out once it's set. It sets to sort of like a clear plastic. So, if you bear with me for a second, I did do half of it before you got here. So. checking the ends there that I've got. The back again, this is from B&Q, which is coming every year. It's got a B&Q near them. They sell sort of two step qualities of this stuff. That's the planed all round PAR, which should be perfectly square. So it's worth spending a little bit extra. I think I paid £7 for enough to do this cab. It's, you know, you can do with any old wood, but it is a real problem. If it isn't quite square, then you've got a lot of fettling to do to get it nice. But so all of this, by the way, is one piece. Be interesting if I don't get to it quickly. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to demonstrate this cab because obviously, ideally, I would have liked to have done R at the end and said, "There you are, that's what it sounds like." But this morning, I got up early to solder this up, and I soldered it incorrectly, so that bit is inside there, and I can't desolder it. It's just a nightmare. I was ill earlier in the week with a cold or something, and didn't get much done, and then I was just starting to get this all ready, and my wife said, "Oh, now you're better, you can do X, Y, Z."
Those countersunk screws for
They are, yeah.
you still get enough play to adjust it with a countersunk screw.
In some ways they're better because you've got a kind of gradual pull in because it's on a slope, as it were, as it hits there. So, you know, you quite often find that either the plywood is warped or the batten is warped, and it is, which is why I'm not using the drill quite as much as I would do. You can hear that I've set that for a very low torque, so. But actually the screws aren't doing anything more than just pulling the glue through. That actually you could go back if you wanted to take them all out, and it probably wouldn't weaken the cab at all, because again, the glue is going to be much stronger than anything else. So you reach that stage, and now we're really ready. It's sort of, you might think I've been talking a long time, but it is, we're almost ready to get the cab up now. That's the other thing, when you mark it out, obviously, there's a back and a front to these cabs. I have put them together before now with the sort of the bits wrong and thinking, what on earth do I do now? How do I get this together? So,
That's for the glue drives.
That is exactly the sort of thing I would do.
oh, we all do the same things, and it's quite interesting. I don't know whether I should tell you this, but Stevie, who builds the LFS cabs, was telling me that he's done exactly what I did with that, soldering that thing up more than once. You know, you're doing dozens of them, you make mistakes, and it's very simple to do.
I did that buffered foot switch thing I was telling you about. Just,
Yeah.
On the wrong side of the switch, and now it won't go in India on bloody enclosures.
Yeah. Yeah, just remember when the plumber quotes you for a central heating system, you know, he's allowed for his own mistakes in the price. You know, it's you can't. I mean, it is very, very difficult. At home, what I do is I have a squarish thing that I ram these up against, sort of like that, and that helps you fit it. So just check all your edges as well, because it's very easy to wander off, and then you fit the back and it's not flush, and then you think, oh God, that's a pain in the behind. screw from inside the cab. And so now I've also got, to bring it with me at home, I have a very small screwdriver, electric screwdriver that does this job. But actually I can see the glue's come out now, so you can see how quickly it comes together when you get to this stage. It's you know, it's quite.
Yeah, a bit of care and attention with all the little bits of bracing and all the rest, it really pays off.
Yes, yeah. What did I say?
I'm assuming you're saving time for later there, Phil.
Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully this is good.
Gosh, I've been in trouble.
Is this any particular grade of ply, Phil? Or was it just ply that you were getting right?
Well, yeah, this is from Juicens.
Okay.
Um,
So it's standard building ply, it's not...
yeah, I mean, for my own cabs, I usually use marine ply, which is a bit heavier. But you know, I am fairly careless with things, and you know, sort of knowing that something is waterproof is quite nice. I actually believe that, well, I know as a fact that part of the resonance of the cab of anything is determined by its mass, and that.
So denser the ply...
I'm going to put a screw in that,
potentially, the
right,
better
right.
it is.
So actually, I quite like the more dense plies. I think if you use the really light plies, you do risk. Yeah, this is not going to work. I need to concentrate on this, I think.
I'd rather have this than the Saturday morning kitchen things. Absolutely. Making trout. Yeah. Thousands of things to do with cake.
Yeah, I don't know whether it'll be helping to do the prep. Why do people eat kale?
What is it? What do people eat?
It's cabbage without any flavour, isn't it?
Yeah.
But would it help if we rotated it?
What the cab?
The cab 180?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. You see, this is the problem. Now it's all hidden.
No, I mean 180.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. No, actually, this is.
Is there a slight warp in that panel?
There is, yeah.
Against the table, yeah.
More than a slight warp, and it's warping since I brought it in this room.
Would you like me to pop that under the tap for you?
No, it's fine. That'll do. I'll sort it out. So if it doesn't dry out, I'll be okay. That's the t-shirt I should mentally wearing. Right. Right way around. You see, there's no clamps involved, which is, there's actually a picture of this cab when I was building it on base chat somewhere, and I think I used 16 clamps in one go to hold it all together. You know, I mean, I'm mad, so I have 16 clamps, but most people don't, and it's kind of.
Stevie's got an empty cab of his outside,
Yeah.
So you can have a look and see how he puts them together, but it really is a case of so much rebaiting, so many glues.
I'm trying to persuade him he needs to set up proper jigs.
Yeah.
Things. So it's basically a cab that's slightly bigger than the cab he's building that has just little things that push it all together while the glue sets, but I can't persuade him, can I? You can see it's already looking like a cab. How long have I been going? 20 minutes? So, the other trick is, while the glue's setting, it's good to bang the panels in because you're going to hold it all square and straight. So what I normally do is I normally glue this in place, but I would normally screw this from the face because it's all going to be covered by the grill later on. And if I ever need to repair anything, I can take that off and then I can get access to everything, and it's much easier than trying to work through these holes.
Yeah.
And what I then do is I run a piece of draft proofing strip round that face so that I can get an airtight seal. So, you know, you're kind of guaranteed there. Right. So they're up. Glue hasn't set yet. So they just slot down inside there, and that's going to be what you fix the baffle to. The baffle is the bit that holds the speaker. So I should want it. But at this stage, you just you know you're lining everything up with the other bits of timber that are already there. Has anybody got a base? Oh, screws, by the way. Very obviously, you don't want the screws coming through on the outside. So you need just to measure them up against your buttons. About 5mm, just to hold enough. And as I say, all it needs to do is be enough to put it down and allow the glue to sort of spread. It's the glue that is all of the strength really. The screws aren't doing very much. As I say, you could take them out. Right, I need to clean up. Glue all over the sit and the table. Fix that later, I think that. If you look there, you can see that panel is quite warped. Let's come away. I want fix that before he. This is where it would be useful to have a clamp.
Not 16 though.
No. Just turn that up. I think I'm going to have to fix that separately. Right, I'll leave that for the time being. I'll do that without an audience. So I would glue that in the back. What you can do is just weight it. But I've screwed some holes through to pull that onto the back. I'm just going to put one in there just to steady it. It's coming apart. You're just going to have to imagine that's glued. As I say, I can screw that on. That just slides in there. I just use a bit of mastic to glue that in place. I often test them like this, just with some insulating tape, just increasing the friction fit. The speaker, you can also glue it. I mean, but that will take a while to set and it'll just keep dropping out. So,
E-roll stick works quite well for gluing plastic.
yeah. I mean, almost anything will do. I mean, I've used silicone, better from doing fit bathrooms and things. You need to leave that for a while for it to clear because it's acidic cure, so that you don't really want that going in the adhesives in your speakers and things like that. I've used decorators filler as well and never had one fall out yet, so you did that, you must be screening because obviously you're selling you wasn't an asked, but I've never really had a problem. Okay, so
Does the depth of the port, is that critical?
absolutely critical, yeah.
Yeah,
Basically, I should have brought a bottle here. You know when you blow across the mouth of a bottle, it makes a note, and if you put some water in the bottle, it raises the pitch of the note. You can also do the thing where you have bottlenecks of different widths, and you get different notes out of them. So the tuning depends upon really the mass of air in there and also the diameter of the pull. So it's the two things. You've got basically a lump of air that's vibrating inside there against a spring, which is the air in the cabinet. It's called a Helmholtz resonator, and the tuning is critical, and it's tuned to the resonant frequency of the speaker. And what happens is the speaker goes down in frequency, its efficiency drops as you go down to the lower frequencies. But what it does is starts exciting the Helmholtz resonator, which starts making a sound at that point. And that gives you sort of an extra few tens of hertz lower down. And it's because you're using the vibration pad, it's quite efficient. You get sort of a slight boost in sound at that level as well. So that all has to be balanced up. I'm simplifying, and I can see Stevie putting faces there, but it's more complex than that. But it's just, there's no point you can go in, you can read the science books, you can see all the formulae and so on, or you can just go to a computer program that will do all the calculations for you. If you know all the parameters of the speaker and you know the air of the cab and all the things like that, there's a formula you can plug it in and you can work out exactly how far the cone moves at each frequency, and then you can predict the frequency response. So you just go through this, the computer program does. I've done this with a calculator years ago, where you sort of do the calculations, you plot it on the graph, and then you go up sort of the third of an octave, and you calculate it again, you put all your points on. It takes forever. It does work, you know, and you only do it for, you go up to the higher frequencies where the code makes less difference. But it can be done, and then the pocket calculators came out, you can program your pocket calculator to do it. But it still meant you had to put in each frequency, but it did give you the answer really quick. Okay, the speaker is a Fane 8225, 225 watts. It's got a huge magnet on it. It was borrowed. Fane used to use this with their 10-inch speakers, this magnet, and it's got a decent sized coil. And now coil size is important because a big coil can take more current before it gets too hot. So if you've got a little tiny coil, it's only a small radiating area, and it's, you know, it just is going to overheat. I mean, these things reach 200 degrees Celsius potentially. You know, it's quite a high temperature. You know, you can burn yourself on the speaker magnet if you pull it out. I think the old ones where they had the paper, the cord was wrapped around a piece of paper, they used to actually catch fire. And I can remember doing discos when I was a kid, and looking across, there's this smoke coming out the port of the cab, which was never a good thing. So it's good. 225 watts is what it's rated at. That's the thermal rating. Do that. The excursion's pretty good. I think it's 5.5 millimeters. So it handles bass quite well. Because it's got such a big magnet, they use that extra power to increase the efficiency. So it's going to be as loud as a 10-inch speaker and some 12-inch speakers. It's not going to be. You need to also take into account the efficiency, and having a bigger surface area increases your efficiency. But it is genuinely quite a loud speaker and performs quite well. At this point, because I didn't put that's the finishing touches, so to put that in and connect it up and play through it. But we do have one we did earlier, which is this one here. It's a different shape. I changed the shape because when I cut that one out of scratch wood that I've got lying around, then I realised that I designed something in that one that you'd have to buy a huge sheet of plywood, and a third of it at least would be wasted. So I redesigned it so it would cut out of a 6 foot by 2 foot sheet of ply, which is relatively cheap to buy. So that's that. Should we have a listen to this one? Let's do the honours. Have we got a lead, by the way?
Yes, I've got the chair.
Whose bass is it?
It's mine.
Right. You'll do the others then, I think.
Well, I don't mind. Anybody else want to You're a bass player, yes.
They're all shy. As am I.
It's terrible.
I've been trying to fix that.
So those two cabinets are the same volume?
Yes.
They don't look it.
No, well.
It looks deceiving.
Yeah.
The one on that floor was actually felt like
That's
so-
3/4 inch, which kind of takes up. Because that was made to match an Ashley after 8, which John had, and he wanted something to make the after 8 a bit louder. Is it working?
Yeah. That's an 8, is it?
Yeah.
Crisp as that.
Sorry?
It's quite crisp.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's worth mentioning that this is the worst possible room for.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just dreadful.
I set up here originally this morning and I had to give up. I just couldn't get a decent sound.
Yeah.
So that's not helping.
Anybody?
Yeah.
I mean,
We'll leave it all set up here if people want to come back and have a fiddle and a play.
That's the 6-inch speaker.
I ought to say as well, this speaker, the other reason I chose this one is it has a reasonably good output up to about 8 kilohertz, which is really the absolute top end of what's going to come out of your bass. You know, at that stage, the windings in your pickups are already filtering out most of that sound. So you know, it does cover the full range, and yeah, it's quite good.
Roughly how much are they, the things?
45 quid.
I thought you were going to say best part.
No, 45 quid.
So you can build one of these for...
Under 100 quid, yeah. Yeah, and then that will include your socket, your corners, and all the other things as well. I mean, I'll bring this back next year, and it will be finished and rounded off. And I will have been using, and I have to say, I mean, I have used the 6.5-inch one at a rehearsal with a really loud drummer. Not something I'd recommend because it doesn't have much bottom end. And I did use a filter to sort of stop the lower frequencies getting in there. But I took it along as a joke, just to sort of tease the drummer, said that that he wasn't be able to keep up with me with this tiny speaker, and I sort of I used a bit of compression as well and a bit of bass filtering to sort of give the speaker a slightly easier time. But actually, it sounded fine, and I just left it there. We just did the rehearsal, and it's remarkable what you can do. And I always go through the PA. I don't use backline, sometimes not at all. I just have in ears. But if I do have backline, it's just my monitor. This would be perfectly. I mean, the volume there on stage, you would hear it, the drummer would hear it, and nobody else listens to you anyway. So, and you're going through the PA, so the audience. So, it's actually quite a viable prospect as a speaker. If you see people in London who are carrying their rig around on the train, and I mean, you can pick this up, and it is not heavy. With the handle on it, it's
what's the impedance of the speaker?
8.
8.
Yeah. They don't make a 4, but then it doesn't make much difference. I mean, that's almost an 800 watt amp, isn't it? 780 watts. I think we measured it at.
So about 720, I think.
Yeah,
Measured it at.
depends what distortion level, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, he doesn't like lots of distortion. I think 10%'s fine.
I don't like distortion in amplifiers. If you want to put distortion in, put it in somewhere else.
Yeah.
Unless you're a lead guitarist.
So yeah, I mean it is a nice little speaker. I mean a pair of them in a 2x8 would be sort of pretty loud, really. I mean, you're talking about something that's pushing up against 100 dB per watt. Which is, and you could hear the bass tone there, that it was struggling, frankly, at the loudest bits of the low B, but it was okay, and I think, it's be nice to try it in a better better acoustics. But yeah, I think it's okay, and that's it really.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
Okay, any questions? People haven't asked?
How much fun is it Tolexing? Is that trickier than
I-
Because that looks achievable, then I'm looking at the finished thing.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
another thing, yeah.
But that is a Tolex. That's
Up to-
paint.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Good
It's Tuff-Cab paint, and that's what we're using. I mean, I have got. I used to build speakers and sell them back in the 1970s, and I have a sort of the remains of a roll of Tolex. We just called it vinyl in those days, and Finite. It was Finite brand. Brought from a little place down in Gray's Inn Road in London. Anyway, it's still there because this paint is tougher. You know, the vinyl does tear, does scrape off. It's really hard to get back down again because it's stretched when it tears. Whereas this stuff, you can touch it up with a paintbrush, and you see it's got a bit of a texture. It's kind of, it's almost like a jelly when it goes on, isn't it? But when you roll the roller over it, you can adjust how high your lumps are in it. It's quite refined. You can buy special rollers to make it sort of a coarser texture, or you can have a fine texture. It almost looks like sort of satin fabric when you've used a really fine roller and you get it very flat. I quite like the effect. So I wouldn't tolerate anything nowadays.
Yeah, no, that sounds a lot easier than that.
Yeah, I'll go for that.
I mean, I probably would come back and talk about finishing the cab, you know, covering things like that, but then I never finish anything. So.
Just one thing about the Tuff-Cab, Phil. If you're going to use it for the first time, do the bottom of the cab first.
Yeah.
Then you can work out how much you need to roller it.
Yeah.
And then once you've done that, you can go and put that on the other side.
Yeah, I just practice on an old piece of timber.
Or do that, yeah. But if you haven't got any more timber, do it.
But actually, it's remarkable stuff because it stays open for a long time.
It does.
It gives you a good hour and a half, depending on the temperature, where you can go on reworking it. So if you make a pig's ear of it, you can go back and do it again. And that's what I do. I mean, what I do the whole cab in one go. So I do a top coat, so I do a base coat rather, just to get the colour on and get it so that the colour is absolutely solid. And then I do the top layer with fairly thick paint. And what I try and do is I try and do it all in one continuous movement right around the cab, so that I've got, you get an even finish, you can't see the joints in it where the roller goes. But it is just, and I put it on with a paintbrush, and then do the final touch up with the roller, and I find that works for me. And it's quite fun. It's a bit like the old sort of architects in the roof, ceiling, you know. But it is really it's very forgiving stuff, I find. The only thing is, if you don't like it, rework it then and there, because if you go back to it, I've tried sanding it down and it is absolutely rock hard. I mean, it is not something you want to have to sand. Have you tried it?
I haven't tried sanding it now.
No, I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, it's just, you know,
No.
it just rips through your sandpaper.
On the drying thing,
Yeah.
because I use quite a lot of it. I found that in the summer, a coat can go off in about 15 to 20 minutes outside. In the winter, it can take up to 2 or 3 days for a coat to dry.
Yeah.
And when it's damp and cold, so
I've not tried it in the extremes of winter.
well, I have.
I think I've used a bit of heat, I don't do it outdoors.
It dries faster outside.
Yeah, but
It gets
it's more space,
Yeah,
basically,
breathe.
so it's going to dry out. Yeah. So humidity and temperature are going to affect it. But yeah, I've not. But then I've done it enough now. Yeah, you must must have done it enough that it doesn't take you 15 minutes. You know, just you know you've got a certain amount of time to do it, and I've got a little routine that I do, and
If I try to dry it outside, I'll come back to it, there'll be pigeons stuck to it.
well, that's why I don't do it outside, because actually, you know, an environment where you've got, you know, sort of, you know, in Somerset you've got sort of insects flying around and all sorts of things, you know, and it's just, so, do it indoors. I've got sheds. So. Okay, I think 10 minutes to lunch, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.